Hi everyone. I think it's probably time to start. So thank you very much for joining us. I've got myself, I'm Anne Fletcher, the Citect Product Manager for the UK and Ireland, and we've got Tim Harrison as well, who is our Systems Architect. So just to run you through the agenda. So we'll run you through sort of SolutionsPT and benefits of you guys local distributor. We'll go through the new features and benefits of 2018. Tim will run us through upgrading to 2018 and the sort of various options you guys have got to be able to do that. And also to finish off, some potential compile errors that you guys might see following the upgrade taking place. So, as you're all aware now, SolutionsPT have taken over the distribution for Citect products for the UK and Ireland. So some of the benefits of that to you guys is the Citect training is now held in our offices here in Cheadle. If you guys have ever attended any of the Wonderware courses, it sort of takes the same shape as that, really. We also offer on-site support, so we can send our guys out to your sites as long as you've got more than 4 people that you'd like to get trained up, then that's an option for you guys to take up. We also offer consultancy, whether that be on upgrades or sort of projects that you guys would like a little bit of help with. That's something that we can talk you guys through and send someone to site for. We also work through a lot of pre-sales questions such as sort of best practice and resource allocation and architectures. So for example, if you perhaps have a 5-year plan of where you'd like to take your site to, we can sit and talk you through sort of getting there from day one and how to implement the correct steps from there, so you're not really wasting money or taking a few steps where you probably should have started in a different place. So that's something that Tim and some of our other systems architects can help you guys with. We work a lot with our SI community as well in the UK and Ireland to sort of make sure that they've got all the required resources to be able to support and implement the Citect products in the end user base. It also means, though, for our end user community that we can recommend local SIs to you. So if we know someone specialised in a specific area or they've done projects within that previously, and that's something we can talk you guys through. I think one of the most important points to point out at the moment is that all customers with a current support contract are entitled to free of charge upgrades. So if your end user has got support, we can have a look at that and help you guys to arrange that. If you're not sure if you have got a support contract, just give us a call with either your site ID or a key number, and we can check whether you or your customer have got site support. If not, we'll be able to get a quote to you guys. There are some really good campaigns running at the moment to bring you into support, so it's worth having a chat to us about that, really. We now do localized marketing as well, so what that means is we sort of target marketing towards you guys based on the sort of knowledge and trends that we're seeing as a company while we're out and talking to different end users and systems integrators. So it's not just generalized marketing, that's been sent to us from the States or somewhere else. It's specific market trends and stuff that we're seeing within our market. And then also one of the really important points to highlight is that tech support now actually sits in our offices in Cheadle. So previously when you rang for Citect support, you probably went through to the guys in Australia. That now sits with our guys here in Cheadle. So during the hours of 8 till 6, you'll get our local team here. And if you have got 24/7 support contracts, then you'll go through to Boston and Sydney as the number sort of follows the sun around. Yeah, so next slide, Tim, please. Thank you. How do we work with Aviva? This sort of slide talks you through that side of things. All the Citect product set is owned and developed by Aviva, as you'll see at the top there, but they use independent distributors around the world to sort of take the products to market. So SolutionsPT are the sole distributor of Citect products within the UK and Ireland, and as I mentioned previously, we provide everything from product support, training, customer support, that kind of thing. So I'll hand over to Tim now, and he'll be able to talk you through the sort of product changes and upgrades from there.
Thank you, Anne, and hello everyone. So we'll just dive straight into it and have a look at some of the new features within Citect 2018. A lot of the content that 2018 brings is really the sort of a bit of situational awareness and also a tendency to modernize the operations by providing a much more friendlier user interface that allows you to navigate around your mimics and get the alarms and trends in context. So if we just take a look at these features, this is what Citect 2018 brings to the party. We've got now a context-aware workspace supporting both 1080 and 4K resolution screens. We'll look a little bit more into actually context-driven navigation and the multi-monitor support. There is now a comprehensive library supporting those situational awareness library symbols, and then also the alarm management, sort of lending itself to the EMUA 191 guidelines, giving you the ability to shelve alarms and define cause and responses for those. So if we just take a look at the new workspace, as you can see, we sort of have various panes that make up the screen content. So if we start with the navigation zone in the bottom left-hand corner, this will change according to how you're navigating through your menu. You also get a faceplate zone, so when clicking on an instrument, you'll be presented with that information from that faceplate in that pane. You also have an information zone, which can be broken up into the alarming, the trending, and the interlocking. And basically how it works is if I'm clicking on an instrument, such as this analyzer, the context of that analyzer is then displayed both within the faceplate and the information zone, so that you immediately get that information from that instrument instead of having to then re-navigate off that page to see the alarms or the trends. And it autofills that content, both the set points, high limits, low limits, all that information that is behind that instrument. And with the menu navigation, we also provide then the alarm counts, so you get a bit of a breadcrumb showing you the alarm priorities in each navigational button. Going now into the alarm page, we can see now that we can filter by priorities simply by clicking on the 1, 2, or 3. You will automatically sort of filter out those type of alarms from your window. You also get an alarm-based navigation, which allows you to quickly see which alarms are under each area, but also by ticking the various boxes, you'll be able to filter out those alarms. So you can really hone in on a troublesome area or piece of equipment. And those alarms that have actually been configured with a cause and response will then be presented on this alarm page, as you can see on the right-hand side here, sort of guiding the operator to be prepared into how to handle that alarm. The trend page is in a similar layout to the alarming. You get the filtering, the equipment filtering on the left-hand pane. And what is nice in this release is that you get the tick boxes, basically what you see on the left-hand side in the middle, where you can quickly just add a process variable onto the process analyst trend simply by ticking the box, as opposed to actually having to go and search for that tag as we did previously. It does, however, allow you a partial name search filtering in the search bar, which is a very nice feature. We all know that Citect has provided multi-monitor support for many years now, but what we see in this release is the ability now to graphically represent your monitors. As you can see here in this screenshot, we have sort of monitors in a portrait and landscape orientation, as well as different resolutions. So it just makes it a bit more user-friendly, being able to lay it out as you would normally see it in your control room, and then dedicate those screens to have the context or pages that you want to display. And here's just a sort of summary of some of the library objects. It's not just about presenting data in a grayscale sort of format that you might think. It's actually being able to bring clearer information to the operator when something about his plant changes, and they can quickly see whether or not that value is actually in the optimum or optimal sort of range. As you can see, the left-hand side, both the polar star and the instrument is actually quite clearly, you can see the process variable is where it could be or should be, whereas on the right-hand side, you can see the polar star is slightly distorted and the process variable is sort of more to the top, quickly giving the information to the operator that this is not normal. If you're not using situational awareness symbols, you can still make use of the alarm borders and indicators. As you can quite see here, this is just a bitmap that has the border assigned to it. Taking a look now at the alarming, we said that 2018 now sort of supports the guidelines laid out by MUA. So this is some of the runtime displays that you can now see. As soon as you have an alarm, and maybe it's a troublesome alarm, you can actually then choose to shelve that indefinitely. You could actually shelve it for a certain number of hours or shelve it to a certain time. So what we are seeing is some of our customers are basically wanting all the shelved alarms to basically become unshelved on a change of shift. So there's the option then to say, look, I want these alarms to all be unshelved at 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning when the new shift starts. I did mention cause and responses, so you can actually define up to 8 cause and responses per alarm. And again, this is guidelines that the operator will be presented with as to what may have caused that alarm, what his response could be, and the kind of response time that the site would be looking to try and resolve this alarm. So if we now move into upgrading to Citect 2018, we need to first of all find out, why upgrade? What's pressing us to do this? And a lot of the time, this can be where operating systems have reached their end of life, or their compatibility with sort of present-day hardware it becomes a factor. Citect 2018 has been validated for Windows 10 and Server 2016. Another reason as well is you're constantly being provided with support and the latest releases. So at this stage, Citect version 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4 have reached their mature phase, so no more fixes or service packs will be released for those versions. And of course, as we've seen with the new features in 2018, having access to these new features is normally what drives people to upgrade. So then the next question to ask yourself is, can my system tolerate downtime and or loss of data? And if you're basically saying yes it can, then you have the option of just doing an offline upgrade. And if you need your system 24/7, then you will have to look at an online upgrade. And we're now going to just take a look at the different paths and steps that you'll be looking to take. So if we have a look at the online upgrade path, what we're seeing here is essentially there are 2, maybe 3 major stepping stones to go to 2018 if you're coming from a very old version. So anything from version 5 to 7.1, you need to bring it into Citect 7.2, Service Pack 4 or 5A, compile and run it, and then bring that project over then into 2018. If you have a project 7.3 or 7.4, you need to bring that into 7.4 Service Pack 1 before taking it to 2018. And then obviously 2015 and 2016 can upgrade via the online path to 2018. Most of us are probably all aware of what files are needed, but I thought it would be useful just to list it here. So again, we're looking at an online upgrade. Clearly, we need the project and its include projects, the INI file, the data directory that will basically bring you your history files, the alarm files, any reporting files, and any ActiveX controls and device logs that you may be using in your existing project. If we just take a quick look at how different it is if you did the offline upgrade path, this is a sort of protractor view that essentially any version from version 5 through to 2016 can upgrade to 2018 via the offline path. Almost the same files are needed, except you probably, if you're not needing to retain your history, then you can obviously just bring the project file, the include projects, and your INI file. When you're doing a Citect upgrades, there are some steps that Citect enforces and automatically starts, and there are some steps that you have to do manually. By default, when you restore a project into Citect 2018, the design environment will basically force an upgrade on that project, and you'll see this sort of box in front of you, sort of just running through the project. Once you then make that project active in Citect Studio, then you will get a pop-up box warning you that all the graphic pages are going to be upgraded. Sometimes this pop-up box stays hidden inside Graphic Builder, and you do need to click on that to bring it to the forefront. I have seen this in the past. And as soon as you click OK, then you'll start to see a whole list of your graphics basically being upgraded. Once we've done that, it is sometimes, most times, especially from an older version, really important to migrate. Migration allows the newer version of Citect to sort of move away from some of the legacy settings that may have been used, such as local tags, the fact that we didn't have roles within the security tab with previous versions. Obviously, there's an option to handle the XP style menu, migrate or include projects. It's the reason why that box is ticked is because sometimes, because of the dependency that you have between your project and your include projects, Citect needs to upgrade everything at the same time, and ticking that box allows Citect to handle that. It is quite normal to run the migration tool more than once. You can do it in a step-by-step way. So by no means is the migration tool only there just to run once. You can run it multiple times and have different boxes checked at that time. So now we're sitting where we've upgraded the project. There may be some other settings, and these are just a few of them that you might need to merge from your existing project into your current INI file. The reason why we always merge information into an INI file is because Citect's directory structure most likely changes between versions. So it's best to keep the INI file that comes with the version of Citect and then merge in your parameters. And we can see here the tag start digit. If you're starting your tags with a number, you will get a lot of compile errors if you don't have this parameter in. Check address boundary, very useful when you're dealing with Modbus and you are basically using registers that Citect feels, or address registers that Citect feels are invalid. These are more customary. The list system pages and allow edit supergenies just allow you to basically access these from the graphics builder. The next step we will be looking to do is compile your project. This is where we would probably see most of the errors that we have to now deal with. It is always best to uncheck incremental compile. By default, Citect always has incremental compile checked, and this was always a feature built in because those projects that were very large, it helped with doing the step increment changes rather than doing a full compile that could sometimes take many, many minutes. So when you first restored your project, definitely uncheck your incremental compile, and then obviously run your computer wizard. We're now sort of looking at features relating back to the online path. So your trends, you took a backup of your data directory that had all your trends and alarms. So we're now looking to restore these historical files now onto your new PC. So what's really important from this slide is that we need to try and retain that same file hierarchy. So where the trend folders were residing, we need to sort of keep that on the new PC. If this is not possible or not desirable, then we need to look at maybe using the trend renaming tool, which is available on the support website. On the alarming side, this is slightly more different because we have to cater for the different types of versions. So when you're coming from 7.2 ServicePack 4 or 5, you need to first just confirm in your INI file the alarm save primary, and that points to the directory that you've actually saved your backup alarm files to. And that's all you need to do basically. If you're coming now from version 7.4 or 2015, then you need to place your backed up alarm databases in a directory defined within your ctedit data parameter. And then before starting your runtime, so before you actually run the project, just make sure that there are no files within your alarm save primary folder, more specifically the alarm save and the alarm index save. Make sure there's no files. And then obviously Citect will then bring the backed up alarm database into the actual alarm primary. So if we just take a little bit of an animated view as to doing an upgrade. Now I can appreciate that everyone's project will be very different and we'll all have various maybe compile errors to deal with, but from an overview, the first thing we want to do, and I'm using 7.5 as an example to go from, we need to add in the INI file, we need to add the earliest legacy version. This parameter allows older versions of Citect to talk to the newer version. So in this case, because we're running 7.5, I need to have the earliest legacy version set to 7,500. If it was 7.4, it would be 7,400, 7,200 for 7.2. So I need to bring that into both servers. So if you do need a redundant server to be able to do this, once you've had that INI file configured, it is definitely recommended that you take your project out into a lab test environment. This would be maybe another set of pair of servers with clients, and you really want to make sure that the organization on whole is happy with the project and the way it's running, because if you are doing an online upgrade, it is the last thing you want is to basically do an upgrade and then find that you're actually having to lose your plant. So the lab test environment is absolutely an important step. Once we're happy with this, we're going to bring that one server back in on the standby. We're going to basically disconnect the standby server so that everything is still running, and then bring that lab test server back in. Once you reconnect it, it is going to take some time just to allow the server to synchronize, which can be monitored from the kernel, and then it will resume as standby. When we're at this stage now, we would basically look to change over the servers and then look at upgrading each client individually. So at this stage, we're going to go through all 5 clients and basically bring them up to version 2018. The last step really is to upgrade your now standby server, bring it to 2018, and then bring it back online. Like I said, every site is different and unique, and we're more than happy to be involved on any of those critical sites, for these type of online upgrade paths. So what kind of errors can we expect to see? Well, this is obviously very project dependent, but what is nice since 2016 is that Citect has provided an error message, which really does help maybe hone in on what is the problem. Even though sometimes the description is quite self-explanatory, sometimes it might not be, and just having that number that you can quickly, easily search for really does help. From the projects that I've upgraded previously, certainly those that are pre-version 6.1, The compile errors that I normally get is obviously no clusters are defined, no computers or LAN addresses. Duplicate tags is, funny enough, quite a big issue. Citect in earlier versions didn't really worry about duplicate tags, whether it was in its variable database or alarm database. But as soon as you bring them up to, even from Citect 2015, then you'd start to see all these duplicate tags, which can be quite a nuisance because sometimes they point at different addresses. So you really need to now start to wonder which tag can I remove or which tag is no longer needed. An example I've displayed here is the display get mouse. So in previous versions, it was able to use local variables. You just went into Citect, declared a couple of local variables for the X and Y coordinates, and then you could use that display get mouse function and just keep referencing the local variables. With Citect 2016 and onwards, that throws up an error, and you've got to actually define then the Cycode variables within your function to do that. It's not a big job, but it's something that is an example of some things that have changed in the newer versions of Citect. Those that have used Citect for many years can maybe relate to this when functions are basically depreciated and become obsolete. That this can be obviously quite just something that one has to work through. If that function is no longer supported, there needs to be another workaround. Either that has been documented, or again, please speak to us so that we can assist. The include projects that I've noted as an error is actually from a project where someone had copied an include project and renamed it, and then made that part of their include of their bigger project. The problem with that was, as Citect evolved, the system projects would always be upgraded through the normal upgrade path that Citect would enforce. But because you had copied and pasted the include project, that was never forced to be upgraded. So when you had big sort of Cycode changes or functions that were removed, then you actually had to then go in and manually almost address each one of those inside that. So it's just another sort of issue that I came across. And another one was, obviously, when you're storing symbols and genies inside the actual system libraries, it is always best practice to create your own library that you can obviously bring across through your project upgrades, rather than store them in the system libraries, which will be overwritten every time that you upgrade Citect. And yeah, please, there's another upcoming webinar. Again, please register at solutionspt.com. This will be looking at Citect 2018 in more depth. We're hosting this on the 27th of September at 10:30. So please take note of that, and we'd love to see you again on the next webinar. That brings me now to the end of the Upgrading Citect.